In the sacred heart of Vatican City, where marble statues whisper centuries-old prayers and candlelight flickers across frescoed ceilings, an unsettling silence began to settle over the ancient walls. It was April 2025. In a modest yet guarded room deep within the Apostolic Palace, Pope Francis, born Jorge Mario Bergoglio, lay in his final hours. The usually bustling Vatican had grown still, as if the stones themselves were holding their breath. The pontiff's chamber was sparse by choice. A simple crucifix hung above his bed. Beside him, an old and worn copy of Confessions by St. Augustine lay open, its pages dog-eared and annotated with ink faded from time. The Pope's breaths were shallow, and his once vibrant eyes, known for their warmth and insight, now seemed distant, reflecting a burden far heavier than illness. Outside the window, the bells of St. Peter's Basilica tolled low and slow. The world would soon learn of his death, but few would understand the shadows he left behind. The sister in the shadows. Maria Elena Bergoglio, the Pope's younger sister and only surviving sibling, had spent her life far from Rome's grandeur. She ran a modest community shelter in Buenos Aires, caring for the displaced and forgotten. Publicly, she had never played a role in the papacy. Privately, she and her brother shared a bond forged by faith and pain, one rooted in the dusty streets of Argentina and tempered by the complexities of church politics. Weeks before his death, Maria received a letter. It was handwritten, marked with the papal seal, and accompanied by a silver crucifix she had given Jorge decades earlier. The letter contained more than words. It bore secrets, coordinates, and a warning. They will not let this truth live, but you must. She flew to Rome quietly, under an assumed name. Her entry was unannounced, her destination unknown to even the Swiss Guard. Her mission was clear: uncover the truth her brother had hidden beneath centuries of secrecy. The Archivum Damnatur. Beneath the resplendent floors of the Vatican Library lies a vault few have seen, a place spoken of only in coded memos and fearful whispers. The Archivum Damnatur, the archive of the damned. Unlike the Vatican's secret archives, which are accessible to scholars and clergy under strict guidelines, this chamber was sealed from public knowledge. Its iron door bore no nameplate, only a crest long retired by the Holy See. With the help of Father Niccolò Romano, an aging Jesuit who once served as the Pope's confessor, Maria gained entry. The air inside was thick with age. Dust floated like incense, disturbed only by their presence. Walls were lined with file cabinets and locked chests. Folders bore strange symbols and labels written in Latin, Greek, and ciphered Italian. But one black folder stood out: Project Benedictio. Unveiling Project Benedictio. Maria opened the file with trembling hands. Inside, the contents read like the script of a dystopian thriller. Project Benedictio, conceived in the early 2000s, either during or shortly before France's papacy, was a covert operation designed to protect the integrity of doctrine through preventative compliance. In essence, it was a spiritual intelligence program. Reformist bishops were surveilled. Dissident clergy were discredited, transferred, or disappeared. Financial transactions between dioceses were manipulated to mask the movement of accused priests. Shockingly, several memos bore Pope Francis' personal insignia, dated both before and after his elevation to the papacy. One chilling line repeated throughout: Obedientia et silentium. Obedience and silence. Maria read testimonies from clergy who had tried to speak out, some driven to exile, others institutionalized. Footage on a hidden flash drive showed interviews, secret recordings, and internal debates within the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. There was even evidence suggesting complicity in past conclaves: the journal and the confession. It was in this vault that Maria learned of another item: her brother's red leather journal. Known only to his closest aides, It was said to contain daily reflections, names, private correspondence, and a handwritten account of every major decision he made as Pope. Most damningly, it was believed to contain his final confession. In his last hours, Maria confronted her brother. She held his frail hand and read a passage from the journal she had uncovered in a hidden drawer beneath his study. He wept, not for himself, but for the Church. "They think I reformed the Church," he whispered, his voice brittle. "But I buried the truth deeper than any tomb." His final words to her, "The truth must outlive me." The Vatican's reckoning. The Pope's death was announced with a flourish of tradition. A public procession, white smoke, and televised tributes. But behind closed doors, chaos reigned. The Project Benedictio documents were leaked within days. International news outlets published excerpts. Vatican officials scrambled to denounce them as forgeries, but the depth and precision of the files were undeniable. Clerical immunity vanished. Cardinals disappeared. Some clergy sought asylum abroad. The faithful were stunned. Protests erupted in Buenos Aires, Madrid, Paris, and Rome. Inside the Vatican, power struggles boiled over as factions blamed one another. The Vatican Bank froze several accounts tied to names in the documents. Amid the chaos, one relic was conspicuously missing: the Pope's final handwritten blessing, traditionally read to the faithful upon his passing. Vatican archivists reported it gone, perhaps stolen, or maybe it never existed. A world in turmoil, Maria, once an unknown figure, now stood at the center of a spiritual revolution. After delivering a portion of the files to independent journalists, she disappeared. Her last confirmed sighting was in Rome's Fiumicino airport. She held a red case and wore a long black coat. One witness claimed she was crying. Some believe she returned to Argentina. Others think she is in hiding, guarded by allies of her brother. Theories abound: that she holds the missing blessing, that she destroyed the journal, or that she is preparing to publish it. Her name became a symbol, etched into protest banners, whispered in churches, printed on pamphlets calling for church reform. One slogan echoed around the globe: "She carries the truth." The Conclave of Crisis. As the College of Cardinals convened in the Sistine Chapel to elect a new pope, the atmosphere was thick with suspicion. For the first time in modern history, the conclave faced international scrutiny. Backgrounds were examined. Secret ballots were questioned. Rumors of external political interference plagued the election process. A faction known as the Shadow Cardinals, many of whom were tied to past papacies and the Benedictio files, exerted enormous influence. They lobbied for a candidate seen as a stabilizer, not a reformer. But younger cardinals, inspired by Maria and the leaked truths, resisted. In the end, a compromise candidate emerged. A cardinal from Southeast Asia, known for his silence rather than his sermons, stepped onto the balcony as the new pontiff. He chose the name Pope Innocent XIV. The irony was not lost on the public. Faith-fractured churches across the world struggled to contain the fallout. Attendance plummeted. Donations dried up. In Latin America, clergy were attacked. In Europe, cathedrals stood nearly empty. Catholic schools saw record withdrawals. Some turned to other faiths. Others abandoned religion entirely. The Vatican launched a global truth and reconciliation initiative, but it was seen as too little, too late. A generation of Catholics grew up believing in a reformer pope, a man who washed the feet of the poor, championed climate action, and preached mercy. Now, they read about a man torn between ideals and institutional rot. The legacy of Jorge Mario Bergoglio history will debate whether Pope Francis was a hero, a hypocrite, or a prisoner of the system. His papacy began with promise and ended in silence. The red journal remains unrecovered. The full truth lies scattered in encrypted files, whispered memories, and a sister's fading footsteps. Yet one thing is undeniable: The Catholic Church stands forever changed. No longer can its sins be buried beneath ritual and incense. The age of blind faith has ended. What remains is reckoning.